Morning, everybody, and welcome to Cabinet on the 12th of March, Tuesday, to make it a bit different. I'm your chairman, and I'll be running you through the agenda. Cut to the chase. Item number 1, apologies for absence, please.
Thank you, Leader. I can offer apologies for absence this morning from Councillor Mike Bush, the portfolio holder for the Environment and ward member for the Oakleys and Wicks ward, and Councillor Jane Chapman, the leader of the Independence Group and a ward member for Brightsea. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Second item is the minutes of the meeting held on Friday, the 16th of February. So I'm happy to move them. Can I have a second of them, please?
Happy to second those as a correct record, Chair.
And anybody got any comments on them before I sign off them? Okay, thank you very much. Item number 3 is declarations of interest. Have I got any? Councillor Barry.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I'd like to declare a disclosable pecuniary interest in item 12, which is the report of leisure and public realm portfolio holder and the sport and activity strategy in respect of my position as a trustee of Brightlingsea Lido.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. Are there any other disclosable interests? Nope. Okay. Ms. Hastings.
Thank you. I can confirm that before the meeting, Councillor Barry requested a dispensation from myself under section 33(2) of the Localism Act 2011, and I have decided to grant that dispensation for today's meeting on the basis that it is considered appropriate that it is a draft strategy which is being presented to Cabinet to go out to consultation, and there are no decisions within the report and the matter being considered today which impact directly on the Lido. So that's why it's appropriate for a dispensation to be granted.
Councillor Guglielmi.
Chairman, thank you. It's never been the case in the past. It just dawned on me, the North Essex Parking Partnership. It's an Essex County Council sub-group, and there's a few of us in the room that it's never been an interest that we had to declare in the past. But I just wondered if we do need to do that, especially in view of what's the options that are contained within the paper.
You raise a good point. Let me just see if I can get some clarification.
Councillor Guglielmi, I would probably consider that to be other registrable interest, as you are a member of County Council. However, I feel that it's appropriate for you to stay in the meeting and to be able to contribute to the debate, but also as well because you're not a decision maker today. But you know, it's acceptable to be part of the debate if you wish to be so. Yeah.
In that case, can I declare mine along with Councillor Henderson's, as we're both also county councillors?
Again, are you part of any group at Essex County Council that refers to the NEP or the Joint Committee in any way? Was it because simply you're a member of Essex County Council?
I'm simply a member of Essex County Council.
I'm not in a decision-making, area of policy on that council. The only thing I'm on is corporate scrutiny, which may have a look at it in the future. So that might be safe for me to declare an interest because that might be in front of us in the future.
Okay, as these are other registrable interests, we'll grant dispensations for all members to take part in the debate and decision today in relation to this.
Thank you, Ms Hastings. Okay, on to agenda item number 4, announcements by the Leader of the Council. I have none. We recently had a cabinet and there's not been much between the two, so I'm going to move us straight on to announcements by cabinet members. Councillor Placey.
Yeah, thank you. I had the pleasure of attending the High Sheriff's Awards last week, and there's a nice little paragraph in the programme here that give you a little bit of background. Since Saxon times, High Sheriffs have been associated with law and order. Today, they give their support to people who strive to make their communities safer places in which to live and work. The fund is administered by the Essex Community Foundation, and all donations to the fund benefit from being increased by 50% from the proceeds of Crime Match Funding Scheme, which is also managed by ECF. We were lucky, I think, 4 tendering organisations were successful in their application for funding. Inclusion Ventures, Lads Needs Dads, the Change Project and U-Turn for Support. And the Change Project actually won an award. That was very good. That's it.
Excellent news for our voluntary sector. Okay, I'm going to move us on to item number 6, matters referred to the Cabinet by the Council. There are none in this occasion. Matters referred to the Cabinet by committee. There are also none on this occasion. That takes me to the first of our reports. Leader of the Council's items, delivering against the Council's corporate plan, final proposals for highlight priorities for 24-25. You'll find these on pages 7 to 24. So this is basically the first part of our 4-year plan coming from our vision and corporate plan, and listed in there is what we're going to focus on in the next 4 years, the next year, sorry, and what we see as a priority. Now, this did go out to consultation. I'm not going to go through the consultation comments. It's all in the report, but I do need a seconder on this one, and I think Councillor Henderson.
Happy to second, Leader.
Thank you very much. So this is an exciting programme of trying to get things done, and I think I would draw attention to the huge amount of work that we have got in front of us in this year, and I think it's quite admirable for us to put a lot of the things that people talked about on this list. But there's also on page 16 a list of what's coming up in the future years. And when you look at the size of what's coming up in the future years in 25, 26 with local plans, waste strategies, we have quite a busy 4 years in front of us, I think, and it's going to be something that's 3 now. Thank you, Councillor Google Army. Yeah, sorry, it goes so quick. So yes, having been disrupted, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you, Carlo. And I'll take comments if there are any. Mr. Davidson.
Sorry, I just wanted to put a bit of context rather than actually into the arena of of comments. Our local authority, in terms of the agenda of the levelling up funds, the work which has gone on at the same time as waste contract, the context in terms of the housing and the new requirements with housing, are a massive agenda. Any district council would be a massive agenda. We have the highest in terms of a single through from government, 60 million as an example. So I just sort of put that as a context of the aspiration for this. As paid service, I would say, is now it's about ensuring how we resource that, how we are able to deliver that and support that, and also set against that is ever reducing in terms of the context of finances. I'm going to just take the moment to say, which is an LGA approach and a national approach is, and multi-year settlements, local government would help us to deliver this, because we will be hearing, we're going to the District Council Network Conference, hearing about this from ministers. The multi-year conferences will help us to be able to plan out and deliver over the next 3 for the big years in order to be able to deliver. At the moment, it is difficult to do that in 1 year. We've got the 4 years, next we've got the 1 year, but we're there. And the other last bit about it is that the other important part is about saying is that set against financial sustainability. So it is a very exciting sort of in terms of time, and I know that all members buy in because we've had those conversations spanning over all of the administration. So just kind of say that to be recognising all 48 of our members and the context at council. I think that's going to be the challenge, and we also need to be continuing with the LGA to talk about multi-year settlements. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Soames. I think that was also set on the backdrop of business as usual. We often forget that, the work that the council does, just making everything tick along nicely. Councillor Guglielmi, you want to come in?
Thank you, Chairman, and I do apologise for the interruption. It just seemed quite pertinent. Not that I'm counting or anything like that. Yeah, no, I cannot disagree with the priorities that you've, the aims of the corporate plan, with the highlight priorities. And just picking up, I got a couple of questions on the actual, some of the schemes that you've got, but just picking up what Mr. Ian Davidson talked about, having been one of the largest recipients of government grants. We know the Levelling Up funds, what that's going to deliver, but the other two pots have been awarded to us. There's no huge amount of awareness what they're actually for and how they will be used, and if there is an opportunity there. And I know I've asked the question before. It's not really. It's quite specific, so that they cannot be divulged elsewhere other than where they are. But and I totally understand the resourcing of it, and that should really be part of the grant itself, to use up some of it to resource the management and all of the rest of it. So that it'd be quite nice to understand what the other two pots will be, will be, and what one of them is over 10 years, and so there's some ambiguity on that. I was surprised to read on page 9 that people don't consider tendering Colchester border a strategic project, because if it wasn't there, a lot of the other areas in the district would be taking up housing that they don't really want, and that's really quite something that we really have not spelled out. And that's really, I'm raising it today, so whoever's listening, think yourself lucky that TCB is there, because the people that live near the TCB, that's the last thing they want. So if there wasn't happening, there'd be a hell of a lot of unwanted housing elsewhere. On the actual thing, it talked about significant savings. We got an item on the Treasury later on, so I will keep my comments on that for that view. But I'd like to understand a bit more about the reviewing the council arrangements against the government's best value duty guidance. That's something that's obviously has been creeping in. Again, there's not a huge amount of awareness what that exactly means, so that'd be quite good to understand what your aims are in order to that. I welcome the development and implementation of social value policy. As the monitoring officer is aware, that's something that was quite keen to roll out in previously, and quite a lot of work was done to that, and that will be excellent to exploit the benefit that it will bring. The other area which be quite nice, I know that's not in the imminent future, but more like in 25, 26 will be for community governance review. And finally, maybe I should have raised this in my comments when I submitted it when it first came out. It was only really after the Widdicombe meeting the other day, which unfortunately had to leave. We had a big discussion how the rural seems to be kind of left to fester for themselves, with this perception that they're quite to understand how that works. Thank you.
If you don't mind, Councillor Brain, I'll answer Councillor Guglielmi's whole host of questions first, and then I'll come to you. Okay, best value, let's start with Mr. Davidson. You happy to do that one for me?
Yeah, so
obviously a very well written piece of legislation, and very good to see the best value legislation. Don't know, but in terms, on a serious note, in terms of the best value, yes, you're right. Government are ratcheting up their response to that. They are having further intervention around authorities. We, as you know, I do peer work and looking at something around those authorities, and that is because we are seeing more and more Section 114 notices, additional government funding. So of the 19 authorities which, and it is not actually they're given government funding, they're given the leave to be able to raise further precepts and further funding, only 5 of them had a Section 114 notice. So that means that actually there were a number of others who were in financial straits. You know, the bankrupt, or, you know, it's nicknamed, strictly speaking, Newcastle local authority is bankrupt, but that's effectively the position, whether it be Birmingham, whether it be Slough, whether it be Thurrock, and so on and so forth. So there's those authorities which have already been highlighted for that. And what they are doing is ratcheting up the best value and the new system in order to be an early warning system for the government. I think that one of the things which is the representation, and I was at a meeting last week about that, representation about that is about ensuring that there is a balance between government talking about devolution, whatever hue of government, talking about devolution, and about government actually holding more and more the purse strings and being tighter. And that's something which politicians will discuss and debate, and whatever the new government is, will need to work out. But your point about best value is absolutely right. Did you want me to put out the general one on that?
No,
You got that? Okay, thank you.
Councillor Henderson, Luff, Town Board, accelerated bids, you name it, it's all yours.
Yeah, and thank you, Carlo. It gives me a chance to highlight some of the things from those individual major projects. You already know about the Civic Quarter. We know that that's going to be the hub, the community hub there with the new library, and attached to that we'll have Carnarvon Terrace, which is 28 units. And also there'll be outlets underneath that. Decisions going to be made on what we use those below those flats, those units. Those units are still in discussion, but for the whole area there. And the best bit about that one is, and all of them, is that Tendra District Council is the treasurer of the money. Although we're working with our partners very closely, Essex County Council, we have that overview that we will make decisions on some of the issues. Not all of the issues, not every colour wall, what's painted inside the buildings or the furnitures that are provided, but we will have a say on design and the strategy around that. So we know the Civic Quarter. Then you've got the Towns Fund, as you rightly said, it's a 10-year legacy, and it covers so it's high streets, transport, economy, and antisocial behaviour, all sorts of other public realm. And we've already, as you've probably seen a decision, we've already appointed a chair, one of our good friends, George Kiefer. I'm sure he'll be a real asset to that community, town centre board. And also the town centre board, we've got a wide range of interests going to be part of the board as well, which we've got a date for that to meet. So really, the town centre board, we need to allow those people to get together and start formulating what they believe meets this criteria that the government set to make the various improvements within the town centre. So you can see antisocial behaviour. Obviously, the police will be involved. Health, experienced health people will be involved. So that's one. And then you've got the Levelling Up Partnership. And again, you've seen decisions been made. We've put a request in that we include the Levelling Up Partnership, not just in Clacton, but we extend some of that to Jaywick. We're waiting for that decision to be made from officials and ministers in government and there is a pipeline. I think it would be wrong of me to go through the list of pipeline, because what you end up doing is raising expectations, and then all of a sudden ministers or officials look at those and shortlist those, and then some of those things don't happen. But we are hopefully, with the working party which we've set up, Levelling Up Working Party, we'll be able to look at some of those things. I think we're nearly there on hearing some feedback from the government. So if you can just have a little bit more patience, I'm sure we'll have some good things to mention soon on it. What we've often said, and I think Mr. Davidson said as well, is all of these schemes. I was at a meeting the other day with various health organisations and experienced people in London, which was, we were pleased to say that the big launch of that was here in Clacton, thanks to, again, Mr. Davidson, breaking barriers, turn the tide. And that some of these discussions were going on, and it's how you complement all of these things. You don't just take them step by step, individual projects. We've got to see how we can actually use all of those projects to come together to look at skills and opportunities, employment, culture, and reducing crime, antisocial behaviour, health. So it's really important that we get this right. This is a one-off opportunity. So we need to consider everything, every decision we make, to make sure that has long-term impacts and benefits to the area. So I'm acutely aware of that. The leader's acutely aware of that. And I've got to say, and again, Mr. Davidson mentioned about all of these projects. We wouldn't be able to manage all these projects with a fantastic team, without a fantastic, and you will know that. The team, that all of our officers go the extra mile with the capacity they're already having to deal with lots of other projects which are on an annual basis, but also these additional projects is a big workload. But again, we've used the capacity funding which comes with these projects and some other funds which you yourselves drew down at one time, and we've drawn more funds down to make sure we've got the support of professionals. We want to make sure, again, we get it right, and every decision needs to be thought out really extremely well, because we don't want to have these rollovers of costs. We want to keep within the costs. We don't want to make the council viable for further costs. So we're making sure that we keep within those constraints. And then finally, which we're pleased to say, we've got the Accelerator Fund for High Street Accelerator Fund, which again, we're really pleased. There's a High Street Accelerator Partnership been set up, chaired by Paul Milson from the Milsons Group, who also chaired the tourism group over those years. So we had a really good vehicle to actually launch that and go ahead with that. 50,000 is our first year. We've got a list of things which again has been drawn up with local people and a wide range of people with expertise to make sure we use that, even that 50,000 wisely, to make an impact, whether it be small steps into the big steps. And then next year we'll have another 187,000 to spend, which we're now looking at how we make that work for us as well. And again, that will be with this partnership group which we've set up. They will help make those decisions, and that won't just be in our hands. So there's some really, really good news, and we are working with partners and local people and organisations to make sure we listen and we deliver something that they want, not just that we want. And I can also say to you, I'm really pleased when we're talking about a tourism group in Harwich. I know how successful that's been. We're going to be having one set up in Clacton as well, along the same lines, and we're really pleased. That will be that the first meeting of that will take place this month as well. So we are really moving at a pace, and hopefully we'll have some good news on projects and how we're going to spend the money in the very near future. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Okay, so social value policy. One of I think both you and I on the other side of it. You and I were on opposite sides of the coin. That coin's flipped, but still on the same opposite sides. It was always a thing. It's now actually starting to creep into the organisation with the new contracts. So we're seeing the 10% being applied to most procurements. I think that's, like you say, it's a really good thing. Thank you for coming to the same realisation around the Tenerife Garden borders. I thought, why wouldn't you think that's the most important thing? You know, but unfortunately, residents didn't see it that way. And you're right, maybe there's some more communication around that, and perhaps you could bring that up because you sit on the, if you could bring it up with those people. If residents don't see the value of it, then perhaps we should ramp up that. Community governance review, that is planned for next year. That was in that list. So looking forward to getting stuck into that. Rurals, kind of answered that question yourself a little bit. You know, a lot of the money we have been given has been sort of tasked to where it's got to be spent. It's not as if we've just said, oh no, we're going to spend it all in Clacton. I mean, even Councillor Barry could say we've done nothing in Brightlingsea. I do take your point about the rules, but it's not that we don't. I personally turn up to the parish council meetings once a month when I can. So I've attended 3 out of 4 to hear what the parishes want and say. You've got things like the Prosperity Fund, the Waste Strategy, the Leisure Strategy that are district-wide, so they do cover your areas. I know are just as important to your area. Heritage, your neck of the woods, the Witches Trail, we're getting that sorted, so that's on there as a priority. And the Prosperity Fund, I think, and housing around Honeycroft. You know, so there are some things that are being done, and I think it's just being realistic about at this moment in time, we've got a lot of money pointed in one direction, and that's not our choosing, but we can't suddenly take all the capacity to deliver those projects and say, well, we must go and do something over there, you know, but there's a conversation there, granted. I'll take that away with you. We can have those conversations, and maybe we can set up some sort of little group where the rural councillors can come and speak to us, and that might be an idea going forward. I've got a few things. We've just decided to do an all-members briefing on the levelling up and all the things associated with that.
Peter's great.
I think I've got 3 people wanting to go.
No,
So
sorry,
Mr. Davidson
I just need to clarify that point. We hadn't just decided, we'd already
Oh.
decided on doing that. But I
My
just wanted
apologies.
to on putting on that in. It wasn't just a 1 minute set there. No, it wasn't. Councillor Henderson and Lee, who obviously kind of been focusing around that, we wanted to bring back to all members of detail. The problem at the moment, as Councillor Henderson already alluded to, is we are waiting for the DLUC and some of the kind of announcements before to outline that. But I think what we want to bring back to you is what the narrative is, whole thing, rather than there's a nice bit over here, there's a nice bit over there. So that had already been there, but I just was putting that as a reminder. It wasn't the last minute.
Councillor Henderson, then.
No, you mentioned the Shared Prosperity Fund. We've got the Rural England Prosperity Fund, which I think the next phase of that comes out around April time. So there'll be another open bidding. Okay, so that please share that with as many people as you can. That will be on the obviously on the website, and that Shared Prosperity Fund, which was the Witchfinders Trail, which was for Manningtree as well. But we've also been going out and doing our little visits to different areas to try and find out for ourselves, collecting information. Myself, Lee and Mike, Karen have been going out meeting companies, and we recently visited the Priory, St Osoph Priory. What a fantastic venue that is, and an asset to the district. They've done a fantastic job with that. And listening to some of the issues that some of these companies have got and businesses have got, and whether they're trusts or whatever, they've all got something to say. So we're doing a listening strategy. Lighthouse, we visited the Lighthouse. We're just getting around as many places as we can to actually take in some of that information, see in little ways how we can help people. And in the future, we can't always answer all their problems, but we can try and assist with some of the small things and some of the feedback we've got so far, Carlo, is it's just been a change. Rather than actually coming to you when we've got a problem, we're actually going to them, finding out what their issues are and how we can support them, rather than them come to us when they've got a few problems and they're in trouble over 1 or 2 issues. So we are getting out there and reaching out to people.
Councillor Guglami?
Yeah, thank you for all your answers. I think most of the fruits that you're working with, you know, it was the result of our previous years, probably the last 10 years, lobbying and looking to secure and tackle the deprivation that the district historically has had along the coastline, which is now coming to fruition. So a lot of the stuff in trains, it's of the work's been done before. And again, you know, we were very clear at the time that we were more conscious to tackle the deprivation and to leave areas which seemingly were doing well, but it's just like finding a balance. You know, we've gone through about 2 or 3 administrations that we worked huge amount of effort resources towards the coastal deprivations key spots, and just really putting the mark in the sand. That, you know, let's not forget that there is other areas out there, and so I won't say any more about it. Thank you.
I always like to have the final say. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, a lot of these schemes, I've said it in public as well. I mean, levelling up's just words. That's what we do with those schemes and projects. How we make them work for our residents, and like I said, have long-term impacts. How we give those opportunities to young people for skills and training and jobs for the future. We bring all that together, whether it be Freeport East, all of these really good opportunities. We just need to bring them together to make them work for us. So yeah, levelling up. We can all have our views on what that actually means, but what I think it means is we just make sure that works for the people of Tendred and make sure that we give them benefits, long-lasting benefits for the future. And that's my aim, and I'm sure that's the whole aim of the Cabinet.
Just so that Councillor Henson doesn't have the last word, I totally agree with you. I think we've had this conversation before about how one administration takes on from another. By all means, yes, you can lay claim to getting the love, the delivery of the love, unfortunately, or fortunately, take your pick. It is absolutely down to us, and it's the resource and capacity that's requiring at the moment is absolutely huge. But I take your point. As a rural councillor, you have put the flag in the sand. I can see it from here, and yeah, we'll have those conversations. Thank you very much. Councillor Bray.
Thank you, Chair. There's not much left for me to do, is there, after all of that? I think you've covered most areas incredibly well, and I'm very grateful for the comments made by both yourself and Councillor Henderson, which were really, really clear. It's really good to hear all of that. Like Councillor Guglielmi, I spotted the shall we say, slight lack of interest in the garden community. Let's put it that way. It didn't seem to come as high in people's. And I think there is perhaps a lack of understanding there that garden community will take away development from other parts of the district that otherwise would have got it. And we were very aware of that when we were putting it together. And I was, as you know, involved in that back in 2015. So disappointing. The rurals, I won't repeat everything we've already said. The rurals are often perceived to be far wealthier than they are. And they too do need a little bit of support here and there. And there is a tendency to lean towards the urban and the coastal. That's where the deprivation's been before. Logical you would go there, but let's not forget the little rules altogether. So 100% with Councillor Guglielmi there. On the overall corporate plan, I love the themes. I think they're nice. It's brilliant to see some meat put on them. You have an ambitious layout here. It's very ambitious, and 3 years, only 3 years. So there's a lot of work to do. It will be interesting to look back in 3 years' time and see how far that went. But most significantly for me was the "you say we do" attitude. Absolutely love that. That's the way it should be. Listening to residents, doing what the residents want to do. Overall, I really like what I'm seeing. I love it. I love it a lot. So I'll be happy to support any way I can. We're here as well. So please don't forget that opposition councillors, some of us are quite happy to help wherever we can to remember we're here. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Councillor Bray. Not quite. Don't think there was a question in there, so I'll just take your comments as. Yeah, they were. To be fair. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. No further comments. Are we happy to? Thank you very much. Agenda number 9, item number 9, lead of the council's item, adoption of a new communication strategy. And you'll find this on pages 25 to 44. Okay, where do I start with this? So obviously communications is essential for Tenerife District Council. It serves residents, businesses and our own staff as well. My big thanks to our press, there he is, hiding over there, our main press officer, Will Lodge, who helped put this together, along with the other staff, Mrs. Hastings and various others. The new strategy aims to highlight and celebrate the council's work and aligns with the new corporate plan, our vision, and now our highlight priorities. The vision sets out the need for proactive communication, internally and externally, embracing innovation without undue risks, and as mentioned, aligning with the golden thread narrative of our vision. Emphasis on strategic planning, proactive suggestions, and exploring new communication channels. There are 5 key focus areas for improvement outlined, including email and smartphone communications, and I know Carlo will like this one, adopting AI, internal communications, social listening, and monitoring evaluation. Specific actions and timelines provided for each focus area, including specific measurable objectives outlined. These include establishing an email newsletter, completing the social media audit trialing WhatsApp channels. There's a few other bits and pieces in the strategy. The new strategy also reflects on the old strategy from the previous administration and what its objectives were and how they were managed. So I'm happy to move that. I need a seconder.
Please, the second, leader.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. And I'm going to go to Councillor Bray first, so you don't take all his questions, Councillor Guglielmi.
Because he would, you know he would. Not so much questions, just really, and at last, I've been screaming about communications for years. I think this council does some amazing things, and then we don't tell anybody about it, and people don't know. And we have been quite poor at that over the years. So I'm really pleased to see that we're taking that on board. And again, the two-way communication system, the ability for people to get to us easier, more easily. And I really am impressed with this communications scheme. I think it's really good. I think it's overdue. I'm most impressed. I don't have any questions, just nicely done. Thank you, Leader.
Councillor Guglielmi.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. On page 38, there's my AI. It would have been nice to see a picture of Will there, what the AI version would have looked like, but maybe that's a step too far there. No, that's very good to see that, because obviously that's an obvious area where AI could come in quite useful. And of course, we still need to understand what the limitation, what the parameters are to using new technology, which will no doubt be very good for the council in order to make the financial savings it needs to do. I do like the introduction of an email newsletter. I mean, there's really this just a refresh on what the previous strategy was, and having worked with Will and his team in the past for many years, I think they've advanced massively in and embraced the new technology to the full, really, to where we used to be Nigel Brown's office, and very set in one way. Not detriment to Nigel, of course, because he's very successful in promoting his what he does now at the moment. But it's nice to see the introduction of an email newsletter. For those of us that have been about, it used to be called Tendering News. It used to be a newspaper that used to go out to every single household, and I very rarely see people even look at it. You know, when you looked at it, there wasn't even recycling in those days. It was just general rubbish. You used to find hundreds of those. They're supposed to be delivering them, but they used to get paid and dump them in the thing. So at least you cannot dump. You can delete an email, but you cannot put it in the bin. So I do welcome that. That will be a very good way to, and also to understand more about the WhatsApp channels. Obviously, that's become the default way that we all communicate nowadays. You know, we've all got, I don't know, God knows how many groups to that we exchange views and whatnot. You know, so that's it's great to see the council now embracing every single tool that it's got in its armoury. So I do welcome the refresh, and like I said, it's not massively different from before, but just reflects the new world in which we're in. Thank you. So no question there.
Thank you, Carlo. I'll come back up. Oh, I think Mr. Davison would like to.
Thank you, Leader. I just want to slightly tongue-in-cheek pick up on Councillor Bray, because, and based on what Councillor Guglielmi just said, it wasn't very poor before, and Councillor Guglielmi did a lot of very good work on that. So unless you want to take that up outside, I'll leave it. What this is doing is enhancing what we had, and actually a big thanks to the staff who've done it before and continuing to do it. So I'm saying it slightly tongue-in-cheek, but I just wanted to pick it up. And the other thing you did say was, and I just wanted to clarify on that one, you said about it being late. Actually, it was due to run till 2024, as it says in the report, and we are picking that up in terms of part of the timing, so we can run it through kind of straight off. But that, you are right to say, that is why we've said in the report to adopt it with immediate effect, so it does sort of run straight on from where the last one finished. Thank you.
And just to show we were in tune, I was going to say something similar, but the email newsletter, one of my ideas, and as to AI, I attended a LGA meeting with the head of the LGA, and Thursday, I think it was, or yesterday. Anyway, so within the last 5 days, and yeah, everybody's going to be doing this, and the only thing for me, I would say to the LGA, is you need to build a platform for us all to stand on, because we're all doing it, sort of one here, one there. I'll do something different, and I can see what's going to happen. We're all going to build our own systems that don't work together, and then when we try and do collaborative working with AI, it's just like, oh, my AI doesn't talk to your AI. Something that's happened in the past with so many other systems, and that's just like, we're on the ground level at the moment. Let's get this right at the beginning. So I'll be taking up that with the LGA, the NEC, and at the DCN to make sure that the AI comes out with a proper platform for us at all councils to work from, not just everybody who decides to embrace it. Okay. Any other comment? Oh, sorry, Councillor Scott.
I did wonder whether he's going to come to us. Yeah, communication over the last 22 years of me being district councillor, when we have publicist officers, Mick Page, Nigel Brown, and now Will Lodge, communication has evolved over the years following technology like QR codes, AI. I have to say, the communication is evolving year on year. New things come in, smartphones improve, QR codes. But one thing I do have to say is residents in my part of the world do actually like watching the YouTube channel, actually partaking and listening in to what people are saying. And I often get from residents that, oh, we checked at the planning YouTube channel, or any of the committees that are in here, people are actually watching. And ironically, COVID, where everyone had to work from home, and we had computers at home, and that actually forced us to evolve. Councils across the United Kingdom have evolved because of that, and residents are seeing the good that we do here at TDC. So communication has never been poor, Councillor Bray. No, it hasn't. Communication has been evolving, and technology's evolved, and I do get information from our good officers, and communication has been superb here. It's just the time it's evolving from a publication that we at TDC residents used to have around our district. It's saving the environment, saving paper, and people often didn't read it, like Councillor Guglielmi has said. But communication is evolving and technology is evolving, and I think our TDC is doing a grand job putting our residents first in terms of communication.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Mr. Davis.
Just to clarify one point, and a serious point on this one, is that the council's newspaper, all councils across the country's newspaper and communication, was stopped by government 2010, 2011. We were no longer allowed to do it. So that was by the then Minister of Local Government who stopped that. So just to clarify, it wasn't
at that stage, that wasn't about stopping payment, it's about a directive from government.
Councillor Bray.
Thank you. I'll be really quick, Leader. Just to slightly defend myself, I do take on board what Mr. Davidson just said with regard to the newspapers, and that will have an effect. Clearly, we have a slightly different opinion of what poor is, and I think that's all that's happening here. So what I do welcome is the enhancement, and I'd like a lot of enhancement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bray. It's a good strategy. I've proposed it. Ivan seconded it. What do you guys think? Okay, we'll do it. Okay, the agenda item number 10. This is the timetable of meetings for the 24-25 municipal year, and I will be proposing this. Let's go for a seconder first. I've got a seconder for this.
I'm trying to read my little writing. I'm happy to second that, Leader.
Thank you very much, Gina. Okay, a relatively simple one. It's the meetings for this year. It incorporates the all-member briefings and some of the trainings. Councillor Guglielmi.
Chairman, I'll be very brief. I've only got one question: is do we need 8 full council meetings a year? That's one thing going in, or what's happened in the past, that really a couple of meetings should have never been staged because there was no business transact. I'll leave that one with you.
Duly noted. I would say we've only been in a year, as someone just pointed out to me. Ask me again next year. So it's been moved, seconded. Any other comments? Can I have approval? Thank you very much. That's number 10 out of the way. Number 11. Me again. This is the annual capital and treasury strategy for 24-25. And this includes the prudential and treasury indicators. So got my notes as usual. So this is a fairly dry subject. And I think, unfortunately, in the past, it's been given as a dry subject and people haven't really given it as much notice as they should. But in the current climate, I think everybody should be completely aware of what's going on with the recent events in the country, including those at Thurrock. And it highlights how important our policies and process around capital investment and treasury activities. In terms of the position of Thurrock, for example, a summary of some of those findings emerged from the best value inspection are included in the report, which sets out a number of failings. One that especially jumped out to me was the inspections team. Me and Richard did look at this, of some of the delegations to their S151 officer as being extraordinary. And I was like staggered to see that word there. I think what the findings indicate is that members need to take a fairly good grasp of the various issues and responsibilities set out within our own strategy, and that we can be assured that our money is being managed effectively and within a risk-averse approach. Although I certainly have a good level of assurance, which is hopefully shared by all members, it is still vitally important to get an independent view on the financial standing and resilience from our external auditors as soon as possible. With this in mind, our new auditors, KPMG, have indicated that they plan on providing their commentary on the Council's use of resources as soon as possible in 2024-25. If members need any support in getting their heads around anything in the strategy, then please let me know, as I can then arrange training/development sessions as necessary. In terms of the strategy itself, there's only been a few minor changes compared to the last year, with the main item of note being the treatment of items we lease in. This is a rather technical change impacting on accounting requirements rather than our underlying financial position and budget. There has been no changes which reduce or loosen our risk-averse approach, with the quality of investments we make remaining the same as previous years. It's also worth highlighting the changes included in the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act in 2023, which took to address some of the failings we have seen at other local authorities in recent times. The government can now make risk mitigation directions which certain triggers arise within a local authority. This is a positive change in my opinion, and I look forward to seeing the various thresholds that the government will announce around the metrics that they have introduced, which are set out in the report. The metrics and triggers will likely impact on various authorities that have been in the press recently, rather than authorities like ourselves that are effectively managed, especially when it comes to managing finances. One last note is also worth highlighting because the report didn't say it, that the first instalment of money owed by Birmingham City Council has now been received. A repayment of £4 million was recently received, with the remaining amount of £2 million due back in June. So I moved it. I need a seconder on this one.
Chairman, quite happy to second it.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. And it comes as no surprise that the former portfolio holder is going to come in. But before I do, if you don't mind, Carlo, there is just, I wanted to acknowledge the recommendation by Cabinet, and that I think all the things that they recommended through there, this is resource and overview and scrutiny, to Cabinet, and everything they put in there has been addressed in the report. So that's on your desks. It's just that first paragraph at the top. And having gone through it with officers, we think everything that was trying to be said on the day was addressed within the report that you're currently in front of you. Councillor Guglielmi.
Thank you, Chairman. I refer to your first opening statement that it's not a dry subject, and it's not a cure for insomnia neither. It's having looked at this for several times in the past. It's very riveting reading, in fact, where it's a tool that has enabled the authority to even make £300,000 when the interest rate was the very, very lowest possible, I think, historically. So it is a very, very good document, very good tool to have, again, to make the, like you, I think I was very pleased to see that KPMG will be issuing a letter, and it's a subject that, as you know, I've been very concerned about. I know our financial affairs here are absolutely spick and span, but people out there might not know. And my worry has always been, and I know that borrowing, it's hugely regulated, as is referred to in the document. I think on page 7, it says council are not really allowed to borrow to invest, not speculative investment anyway, but it would probably, not having a clean bill of health by an external auditor might interfere into whatever scheme an authority would want to launch itself in. And I think I agree the only change is on the lease. That's not, it's really a technical thing. But I think the important thing is on page 58, where he talks about best value, again, the best value duty that we talked about before. It is a stark reality that Section 114 is not a notice that council's gone bankrupt, because the council cannot go bankrupt. A government will intervene. It's where they've been forced to make investments most of the time, except with the exception of 1 or 2 where they've given too much due diligence to equality and diversity pay and gender gap and things, and where they've really ended up. And that's not a secret. It's Birmingham. You never thought that an authority found themselves in that mess, and like I said, it is not the case here. I'm absolutely 100% happy in the way that financial affairs are managed. The one thing that it's interesting though, the interest rate, one of the tables in the strategy there, it will be stable until 2025, and then it will plateau at 3%. So therefore, the windfall that we've had this year and probably next year will come to an end. So there'll be a gap there in the returns on investment. And the one thing that would be quite nice to understand, and I'm delighted to see that there's a section there that deals with other borrowing into the authorities. It'd be quite nice to understand what that borrowing to has enabled us to produce this council. We don't lend money for nothing. So therefore, there has been a return on that, and to stop the critics attacking that practice that's been going on for many, many years, we're quite nice to put some meat on the bones and just say, this is what we received by lending money out to other authorities. It'd be quite interesting. And I'm looking at Richard there, probably he's got it in his one of his many spreadsheet that nobody's allowed to look at. But no, it's an excellent document, Chairman. I've often taken it to bed with me on Richard's recommendation, and it's kept me awake all night, really, to look at it. So that's just really your thoughts on the once the rate stabilises at 3% in 24-25. Thank you.
Before I give you my responses, I think Mr. Davidson wanted to clarify something.
I'm still just getting that image out of my mind. Just a very quick one. In terms of one of the points, you know this very well, Carlo, and have made the points sort of in part just now. But one of the key things around the Section 114 notices has been much wider and around governance. So you're right around. So there's some have been investing, but there's every one of them. You pick up and I've read many of the Section 114 reports, and indeed some of the intervention reports, and every one of them, without fail, are always around underpinning around governance. So where investments have been made, it's usually because members have not been involved. You across the board are always involved. And having things like this report and having this sort of discussion about how we're approaching it, where it falls down is the officer member relationships, the officer communication, and the member then investing. In terms of your latter point around the investment, of course, is, as you'll know very well, part of that money has been so critical as part of our income to supporting our revenue fund. It's not just about using it for shiny things, it's about paying for the day job, the business as usual, the work. But I will go back to what I said earlier, is that setting against ever reducing funding coming.
Thank you very much. I'm guessing you're talking about the table on page 89, so where it refers to the bank rates and where people think it might go. So yes, obviously income will fall if that turns out to be the truth. And these are predictions. Some of them are more accurate than others. And I think, yes, if that happens, there will be a shortfall. But there's also, we have got that reserve in place so that we can, yes, I'll sit there and look at you and say, you put it in there. Yeah. But, you know, we have maintained it to a good degree. And I think for me, having the financial strategy, you can't predict what's coming on, but we do align ourselves to those various things. We're not going to change our risk averse approach. And if it goes down to 3%, we won't get as much money, but it's a lot more than we were getting anyway. So, and we'll still use that while we're trying to find those budget savings. I agree with you, it's not a dry subject, although I don't take it to bed. As for the auditor, for me, the auditor is all about peace of mind. You know, we haven't had an audit report since 3 years. I'd like to have one, just so we know. You know, I don't think we're doing anything wrong, but just need somebody else outside the organisation to say that. So that'd be really good. As for the monies, I think I'll have to get Rich to do that. Thurrock repaid. It'd be nice to know what some of these did. So I'll get that for you. And I think part of all of this, I think we shouldn't lose it is about the financial sustainability and openness that we promote in this council. And I say that like it's, you know, we are so used to it here, you know, but you go to other councils and it's like closed doors. You know, you're not allowed to know how much money we've got. You're not. Yeah, exactly. You know, so I really compliment us as members and the officers. You know, and once again, Richard, great report. You're always going to get it. So are there any other comments? Got a seconder. Everybody's still awake. Agreed. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 12, finally, one that's not mine. Report for the leisure and portfolio, public realm portfolio holder, sport and activity draft strategy. Mick, and do you have a seconder?
Okay. Right. Thank you, Leader. We have to declare a pecuniary interest in this item, as I did at the start of the meeting, and request dispensation to speak. Okay, thank you. Right, got before you the report concerning the new sport and leisure strategy. I would like to move it, and firstly, can I say a few words of thanks at the outset, I'd like to commend the work of my supporting officers, Lee Healy and Mike Curran, who spent many hours with me in discussions and developing the strategy in the direction that we wanted to take as a new administration. I'd like to particularly thank Mike Curran for his patience during the many drafts and redrafts of this. The report outlines the rationale and basis for this new draft 5-year strategy. There has been a strategic vacuum in this policy area since 2021, when the last strategy expired. This draft strategy is critically important for our district, our area, and every single one of our residents because it will fill this vacuum. It's informed by our overall corporate vision, as we've heard in a previous agenda item, and it will contribute to improvements in the quality of life for all, which is one of the key aspects of that vision. By way of background, Tendring is a desirable place to live, as it says in the report, and it has many beautiful environmental and coastal assets. It also has a number of well-recorded and documented health and well-being challenges across the physical and mental health spectrum. We have additional social and economic challenges. These all need to be addressed through a well-informed, coherent strategy that joins up thinking and works together with all relevant public health partners, sports governing bodies, and nationally funded stakeholders. We need to facilitate and aid the delivery of a healthier lifestyle and achieve positive health outcomes for our residents. This strategy will play a key role in that process. In developing the strategy, however, we have to acknowledge the economic realities, just outlined to us in the previous agenda item, that we have to face as a council every day. This means that not all the actions and aims within this draft document can be readily or easily funded, but the scope and community focus embedded in this strategy will provide the framework for development in key areas, and the actions within it will put us in the best place possible to secure external funding when it does become available, and it will also allow us to use internal funding streams from developers through Section 106 funds in a planned and cohesive manner. We're looking to residents, stakeholders and governing bodies, along with clubs and all other actively interested organisations, to contribute to this document and have a say in its final version. We will have a 2-month consultation during April and May and seek to engage as widely as possible. This will be an organic and flexible document and process that will be aided by the establishment of a new post of a community sport and activity manager, initially for 2 years with the prospect of extension subject to funding to cover the lifetime of this strategy. This is a post which is about delivery and shows our intent in this respect. Delivery across the district will also be further supported by the allocation of £122,530 from the budget from the former joint use agreement. I believe this strategy, together with a funded delivery plan, will make a positive contribution to the quality of life and overall health and well-being of our residents, and I commend the recommendations in this report.
Thank you. Thank you, Mick. And your seconder?
Okay. I'm very happy to support this. The recognition of the importance of prevention being better than cure, and with the proposed feasibility of a wellbeing centre, is something that is welcomed. Part of the partnership's remit is to obtain funding for activities that improve health outcomes. And I know we keep on about it, but pedal power is a shining example that has been getting people literally on their bikes, improving both their health and their job prospects, and there too their quality of life. So many of the activity areas in this strategy align with the developing health and wellbeing strategy, so I'm more than happy to second the recommendations in this report.
Thank you, Councillor Placey. And I'd just like to throw my weight behind this. I mean, this has been something that we've been waiting for quite some time. I know the previous administration tried to do something like this, and it just goes to show the difficulty of trying to get something like this off the ground, because Councillor Porter, the former Councillor Porter, struggled to get this done. And I just think that we have this perfect opportunity where we're bouncing back on a health index, that we can really build on that. And there's a buzz around the community to generally bring the health and well-being of the district, not just a couple of spots here and there, but the whole district up in a good place. And I think one of the things that we have to recognise is that our leisure, and our sport, they're connected. You know, it's not one or the other. You know, some people, if you just go for a walk, that's classed as leisure. But at the same time, if you play a game of football, you know, it's all activity, and it helps with so many sort of ailments and everything else. So through things like, you know, heart attack, all those cardiovascular stuff, right down to the mental health well-being of just walking along the beach. So I've read through the strategy. It is very, very good. I'm really good, and I'm really interested, very keen, and interested to see what you get back from the consultation. 8 weeks is more than enough now. You know, anybody watching, tell everybody. You know, we'll try and get this spread wide and loud, and let's just see if we can get some feedback on this and try and really do something good for the residents. So those are my thoughts. Anybody else want to speak on this? Councillor Guglielmi.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. And I'm delighted to see that the seed funding to the support the action plan really has come from the withdrawal of the joint users, which did vindicate the decision, because without that, you wouldn't be able to finance this sports strategy. So I'm delighted to see that. I'd just like to understand a bit more about it. It's a very comprehensive list of projects, very ambitious, maybe too ambitious. It does rely quite heavily on external funding to be pulled in, which, as Councillor Placey referred, I know that our officers are brilliant, again, that money pulled in, especially with a lot of the health initiative and project that are in the making, which dovetail with sports. And sometimes we get ourselves wrapped up into thinking that sports centres have got to have walls. They don't have to have walls around it. You know, you can do an awful lot of stuff to support an awful lot of, even in the rurals, that where sports is extremely well practiced, there is a huge amount of people there that can be supported without having a centre per se, service without wall, if you like. I think, and also picks up on the fact there's £3.5 million of social value benefit on there, which is excellent. That's something that, again, our previous conversation has started to be highlighted more and more. What, you know, local contractors benefit from an initiative. I would like to have some understanding on the Active Wellbeing Centre. It's on page 147. And one of the questions that I didn't want to make the first item too long was, is it linked to the D5 on page 22 with the new Wellbeing Hub? Can the two, have the two got, you know, a thread, as you say? Because obviously that's quite good. And the feasibility study and the cost of that, you know, how's it going to be met? Because obviously it's quite an ambitious program and it's one that would support very much. But I'd like to understand that. I've also got another question, but do you want to take that first and then?
Councillor Barry.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Guglielmi. Yes, just addressing the funding issue, the strategy is ambitious. I think it needs to be ambitious given the challenges that we face. But during the course of my discussions and the research for developing the strategy, it is apparent that along similar lines to the sort of economic investment and levelling up, there is a desire amongst funding bodies to support tendering in meeting those challenges, and that we are seen as a place that does have needs and certain interests, and we are a place of interest for a lot of sports governing bodies. For instance, English Athletics. You will know about the local delivery pilot, and we've been given indications that you know, their support and funding for this area will continue into 25, 26 and beyond. So I take the point that there are some you know, ambitious proposals within this, but they are grounded in a sense of reality and economic reality, and a sense that we can get support from from Sport England and from national governing bodies, and that there is funding available. This strategy in itself will help us to make positive applications for funding. Without the strategy, we would not be getting any of that funding. We do need a strategy to underpin any applications that we make. So that's the benefit of having this. It will help us to take many of the proposals forward, and it will help us to get funding. As I say, internally, we've spoken about housing developments many times here. We've got Hartley Gardens, we've got different schemes coming on stream, and it's important that we plan and use those developments to support this strategy and also to support facilities within those developments. So I think I understand the point you're making, but I'm optimistic from the work that we've done that there will be funding streams that we can access. In respect of the Active Wellbeing Centre, that again is a hugely ambitious vision, and that has come about from the recognition that health and well-being, sport and activity are inextricably linked. That there are clear indices and indicators that demonstrate and evidence the fact that any amount of activity will increase active well-being, but also reduce the risk of serious disease and premature death. So we are looking, and we have been having talks with health partners and other stakeholders to look at the future of our sport and activity provision. And it's not as you'll be aware from again the discussions we've had from other areas about how sports centres are under pressure, financial pressure, and we see the health and wellbeing agenda as part of a wider vision that integrates all services into one particular place. And so instead of having just a gym or a swim area, you have a gym, swim, you have a health department, you have social prescribers, you have everything that you can need in one particular area and one particular development. Now that will need a lot of discussion with our partners, but I think we have a consensus that that is the way forward, both nationally and locally. There is a clear direction, clear movement from government that is the direction they want to see authorities going. So there will be a feasibility. I think we are still in a process of discussing the terms and references for that, but I think it will give this district the service potential that it needs to meet the needs of our residents. So that is, that's part of the strategy, and that will be coming forward. So, but I think that will come forward under a separate proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. I know a couple of people want to come in. Before I do that, I just wanted to kind of echo some of the things that Councillor Barry was saying. In conversations as leader with the chief exec, when talking with the leaders and chief execs of the NHS and whatever, the medical world, there is a realisation now that pretty much like us, that the leisure centres, the bricks, the comments you made, the leisure centres don't have to be walls. They're coming to realise that estates, and they're just treating the symptoms rather than prescribing to the problems. And they've come to realise that things like housing, sports, and mental health, if you catch it early enough, it doesn't actually translate into problems further down the road. And, so they are making a big push, so almost as a sector, to moving away from place-based stuff to place-based, not right, to asset-based stuff to place-based stuff. So you've got the new CDC centre that's working down here. They're catching things much earlier now, because people, in Clacton wouldn't spend a day going to Colchester, but they'll spend an hour going to Clacton. And so they're seeing the whole sort of attitudes changing with people, and that's around the housing and things like that. So I just wanted to raise that I know Ivan's got something. I know you've got another question, and now there's one over there. So I'm going to go. Did you want to come in, Ivan? Sorry.
Yeah. I think Councillor Barry, when he mentioned about thanking officers, I think, and we've heard this many times, that it takes good community leadership to come up with really good proposals and strategy. And I think he should take some of the credit for that himself, for pushing this strategy forward. As someone who's, and I know Councillor Barry's involved in sport, as someone who's coached for several years football teams, I know how important that is, not just for your mental health, for your discipline, your teamwork, and everything else what goes with that is really good for the individual and overall for the whole of the district. And when you look at the comments within this report from Sport England, Active Lives survey showed that 36% of the population was considered to be inactive. We can see what a heavy lift there is to actually move things on in the right direction. And Councillor Guglielmi won't be disappointed to hear that I thought that was an absolute wrong decision to make, and to reverse that is even harder heavy lifting issue to actually put that back in place. There are several people who are now isolated from taking part in activities because of the closure of those joint service centres, and we need to pick those people up and encourage them to take part in other things. That breaking that link should have never happened. I'm still talking to older residents, and when you look at in here, and you've meant that Councillor Guglielmi's mentioned it in some of these reports, the social value added to actually having these facilities, that social value added was actually in those two areas where those services were taken away. And he talks about having, you don't need walls. Well, unfortunately, one of those sports centres hasn't got a roof now because of RAC. And if you look back at why that happened, and he's heard me say this before, because of the reduction in maintenance grant on schools, which took place in 2012, a third of what it should have been in 2011, the maintenance grant was cut, and we're seeing the evidence of that. So we'd have probably been in a bad way with that joint service centre anyway, because of the reductions in maintenance grant, which took place over those years from Essex County Council. Thank you.
Councillor Scott.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I have to say it's a really good strategy. So congratulations, Councillor Barry. It's needed here at TDC. A couple of questions. Over the years of me being councillor, how I've brought it up with previous portfolio holders for leisure services about maybe linking with the Olympic Committee, because some local authorities across the UK have a designated sport that goes to their district, like sailing and running, and we're on the coast. Weymouth do sailing and other things down in the south. Why can't we have something in the east of England, like here at Clapton and on the coast here? And I'm very, very keen for us to perhaps pursue that, especially when we know that Olympics are going forward, coming down the line. Wellbeing hub, love it. Great idea. A couple of years ago, Anastasia and I went to 360 in Colchester, and we went to sort of a hub there that deals with all sorts of bits of pieces there, and I was well impressed by that. And Anastasia and I were there for about an hour or so, and we met with the CEO there, and we looked at bits and pieces there. So something, a similar setup they have in Colchester could be repeated here in TDC. So yeah, they're the kind of things. And yeah, as I say, congratulations on a very good strategy report, and it's well needed. And it will, like you say, Councillor Barry, it will bring funding in to our district to aid future services going forward.
I'm not sure if there was a question there, but over to you, Councillor Barry.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Scott. I think there was a question there about having an Olympic kind of centre of excellence or support area here, and obviously it's not something that I can put in a strategic context, but It is, you are right, we do have excellence across our sailing fraternity in the area and in other sports, and it is obviously something that we would welcome if there was an opportunity to take that forward. So I will obviously bear that in mind. And yeah, thank you for your comments on the report, and certainly support for the Wellbeing Hub.
And I would just add, it's going to go out for consultation. You can feel free to add your comments that way as well. Okay, but you could also add. Councillor Bray.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I too think this is a really good strategy coming forward. I will just adhere to the fact that I had a conversation with a resident just this morning, right here, the resident is still present, who has made some comments about the Clacton Leisure Centre and the condition of the changing and shower facilities in one particular part, which are making life a little difficult. So maybe they'll like to contact you at some point and discuss that with you. But moving on from that, an excellent strategy. I really like it. I'm assuming that we as councillors would all get to see the full results of the consultation as they come back, because that would be really nice to see what comes back to us and see what people are saying. The other thing I would like to ask is parish councils. My parish council, for example, has a mugger, very effective mugger, which is a multi-use field for anybody who didn't know. I'm sure you did. We're also looking at a trim track, which I used to call an obstacle course in a field, because I think that's pretty much what they are. There's substantial money required for those. And I wonder if there's an opportunity here to work with some of the parish councils, because as my colleague Councillor Guglielmi pointed out, leisure centres don't have to have walls. So trim tracks, muggers, things like that around the district also provide a great deal of facility for people who perhaps can't come into Clacton and use a leisure centre. So I wonder if there's a potential link there that you could also look at to perhaps pool some resources. Thanks.
Councillor Barry.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Bray, and certainly I would be, more than willing to respond to any submissions from residents about our current facilities and get as speedy as response as we can. So I'll look forward to that. In respect of the opportunities for parishes and the rurals, I think it was mentioned earlier by Councillor Guglielmi that there are, there are highlight projects along our coastal towns and urban areas, and that sometimes the rurals can feel slightly left behind. Well, I think that was very much been taken on board in terms of my understanding of this strategy and what it's trying to deliver, and that there will be wide-ranging consultation. And if you divide the district into five sort of geographical areas, which has been done in previous consultations and reports, I think we would use that as a basis for those consultations. And I personally, will endeavour to speak to as many town and parish councils as I practically can. And it is important that we keep people, get more people more active more often. It's a bit of a slogan, if you like, but it is achievable, and it will require the support of various communities. It will, make us communicate more with schools and use all community facilities to make access to more activity more available to more of our residents. So I'm not underestimating that challenge, but I very much am aware of it, and I will be taking that on.
Thank you, Councillor Barry, and I will say to Councillor Bray the same thing I said to Councillor Scott. It's a consultation. Feel free to get those comments down and sent in. Councillor Guglielmi, thanks for your patience. Back to you.
That's fine. Thank you for indulging. The one question I wanted to put was operational, and Councillor Bray has actually alluded. It relates to the showers not being functional at the leisure centre, and whether there can be, it creates quite a lot of problems. People have to walk quite far, and whether that can be looked at as a matter of urgency would be quite good. Maybe reduce the size of the showers available upstairs and make them available to the public again. But I think that, you know, I've suggested this and maybe a question for council. Are we still in time for a question to full council? The deadline's gone. Okay, missed that boat. Yeah, if you could look there, and I will get the resident to write to you direct, so maybe the question can be put and a full answer can be given to her. And she's sitting here today with us. My point that I wanted to raise was two more. I was trying to be diplomatic about the service without walls, because again, all the estate that the district council own and all the major leisure offer, it is again along the coast. There's nothing in the rural, so it would be very good. I welcome the getting in touch with parish councils and things, but I think really well-run parish council normally support their own sports facility they have in the area, the country set. So there is a tool that we don't often use really how we should be using, because if there is a joint venture going on, and you know, with this strategy in the offing, it would be really, really good to kind of start those, and partnership work is very much one of your corporate plan priorities, so that will be very much in keeping with that. A lot of parish councils do support their own sports clubs, which never had the luxury of having been supported by the district council historically. So a lot of people get on with what they do without the cap in hand. So that'd be quite a good opportunity to do that. The one thing that I would like to raise is that the strategy doesn't talk about, although on page 116 it talks about the financial challenging position that the council found itself in. In the past, some conversation I've had about rationalising the leisure offer that the council has because of this more innovation that is available to us. That's one thing that the strategy is silent on, and I'd just like to understand what the reasons beyond that. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, Councillor Barry. Do you want me to take the finance side of it at the moment? So the rationalisation. So I'll, as finance portfolio holder, yeah, we are looking at listings. It's silent because we haven't made a decision. All options are still on the table. I think the previous leader mentioned in his final speech, I think it was, that he'd be surprised if there were 3 leisure centres. Now, I don't want to close any leisure centres, and nor does the cabinet. But we have to be realistic about the finances of the council, and we have to be clear about where we're going. So I understand where you're coming from with this. He's like, are we really going to have 3? But we are putting in some measures already. So we're trying to look at mitigating the costs and the subsidy. There is a social value added to this, you know, so there is a certain amount that we would be prepared to pay because of the social value of it, you know, and that's what the residents would want from us. So I think from that perspective, it's silent on there because the decision just hasn't been made which way to go with that yet. And we're still exploring the avenues. Okay, Mick?
Yeah, thank you. I was just going to say exactly the same thing there, along the same lines, that we are keeping all options open, and the whole financial position is under constant review. Just in reference to your first question about the resident, I will say that the leader and I have initiated a routine walk round of our leisure facilities, including Clacton, and we are aware of the problem that has been highlighted, and we have asked for some temporary measures to be introduced, but obviously we are looking at a longer term solution. But I will say that the fabric of the building is aging, the infrastructure is aging, and there will be problems arising as a result of that. And we've had various surveys, condition surveys done and so on. So we are looking to address them within the budgets that we currently have. So I will give a full written reply if on receipt of the question. But I am aware of that, and we do visit and chat to our staff there on a regular basis and update ourselves. So it's not as though we're ignoring the problem and hoping it will go away. We are actively looking at the issues there and looking to address them.
Mr. Davidson.
Thank you. Councillor Guglielmi, just to pick up on page 171, second bullet point, it actually does, so it's not silent on rationalisation, because it actually is picked up on that bullet point about will we focus on, and second bullet point where appropriate rationalisation.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Are we all in agreement? Agreed. Okay. Thank you very much. That takes us to our last item. Report portfolio holder and leisure and parking realm. This is you again, Mick. Joint committee agreement of the North Essex Parking Partnership.
Right, thank you, Leader. Yes, we've got a report here which has been it's become necessary as the membership of the NEP has developed, because I was at a scrutiny meeting last Tuesday and I gave an outline position there where as the delegated member of the NEP from this council, I think I'd attended three NEP meetings and had become increasingly concerned at the level and what I consider to be accuracy of the financial information that we were receiving. So much so that at the meeting, I believe in November last year, I, along with another member, made a formal request that all future financial information had to be signed off by the treasurer of the NEP and the Section 151 officer of Colchester. It was a bit concerning that there wasn't actually a treasurer to be identified at that meeting, so it rang some alarm bells. So we are in a position where we are coming to the end of a financial year, the end of this month, and in our view, and it's a view shared, in some detail with our relevant officers, in particularly our Section 151 officer, that there is concern that we do not have the required information to be able to make budget forecasts about our own budget and about our contribution to the NEP partnership. If there is a deficit, our understanding is that it has to be shared between the 7 members of the NEP, which includes the county council and 6 partner authorities in the north of the county. That again needed some clarification. Unfortunately, the NEP agreement that everybody signed up to, when it is subject to specific scrutiny on specific issues, it is shown to be lacking in detail. So we have some clarification on the point of sharing the deficit, but we need to be in a position, and I think it's my responsibility to protect, to safeguard, the finances of this council, along with everyone else in this cabinet. And so what this report is doing is asking for a delegation of authority to take action as we see fit. And the reason for this is that we are up against a really tight deadline. As I've said, we have the end of the financial year coming up the end of this month. I have a NEP meeting scheduled for the 21st of this month. And the NEP agreement states that if you wish to withdraw from the partnership, you have to give 12 months notice, which would be due on the 31st of March this year. So that would allow us to leave in the 1st of April 2025. Now, if we don't get our notice in by the 31st of March, my understanding is that we are committed to another 2 years within the NEP partnership. And our concern is that given the uncertainty over the financial position, and the financial forecasts and budgets, we could be responsible for an increasing slice of an increasing deficit. And obviously, we want to safeguard our finances. So we don't want to leave the net part of the partnership, but we can't afford to stay if we are responsible for an unspecified budget commitment. So we are, we are taking information as it comes in, and unfortunately, the history of information received from NET is that it arrives relatively late to be considered, and it isn't to the level of detail that we require to make our budget forecasts. So we've got, as I say, I've been working very closely with relevant officers, in particular Mr. Barrett, and I'm now continuing that dialogue, and this report has had to be put to this cabinet now in order to give us the options should we wish to take them. We have to keep all options open in respect of this position, and unfortunately it is an evolving position, and it is subject to the information that we are provided with. And I think Mr. Barrett has spoken with other 151s, and in fact, as a result of my intervention at the November meeting, there was a group meeting of 151 officers called, so that all the authority officers could share their positions. And so we're now in a position where we're getting signed off accounts. We are awaiting the year end as far as we can get them for months 10 and 11, January and February, so that we can make as informed a decision as possible. So this report will allow us to do that, and I would recommend that that is endorsed by colleagues today, and happy to deal with any questions.
Thank you very much, Mick. On the seconder, but I think I'll just go to hands and then Carlo.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mick, for your presentation. And and I'm aware that you've been hands-on ever since you took the position. I am very, very concerned, however, Chairman, that we are considering leaving the net for the simple reason that they will do things to tendering as they see fit. At the moment, we still have a seat at the table, and there are a number of, dare I say, you could almost compare it to Brexit, really, isn't it? Have things got better since we left Brexit? No, they haven't. Will things get better if we leave the net? Probably not, because they will do things to us as Europe are doing things to us at the moment. So it is an uncomfortable setup. It's never been run properly. We are forced, we are at the mercy of others, and I'll be very reluctant if I totally understand the concern about the financial abilities and things, but you're better off with a seat at the table, at least, and work actively with other people and overrule some of the, quite frankly, appalling work that's been done so far by the net. The SEP, which operates on equal keel, you could argue that the South Essex Parking Partnership have got much more amplified way to revenue. But nevertheless, one example I'll give you, the rescue plan that's attached to the back of the report there, it talks about introducing charge areas. And, if we leave the net, I'm sure we'll see charges on the seafront, charges in Frinton, charges on Holland and that, without, we'll have not a say whatsoever in that. I've got a couple of specific questions. One is that, has the chairman of the net been, who's one of our members here, has he been consulted on, is he aware of what's been going on? The second one is, we've never really got to the bottom. What does the lead authority get out of running the administration for the net? I know in the past we've actually said, well, we don't really want to take that on because it's a huge amount of work. But I know that the lead authority run the on-street and off-street parking for two or three other districts, actually. So is it the reason that they are too thinly spread into getting their own revenue elsewhere to dedicate their time on the North Essex Parking Partnership? That is a question that I've put and I've never had the answer. So, you know, if you manage to get a response, that would be great. But I'd be more inclined to understand there's 7 partners, including Essex. All you need is 3 on your side to put an end to this appalling working that's been going on. So, and you know, I'm not having a go. I'm just kind of stating the position as it is, and I applaud the way in which you've involved yourself in it. But I would be very reluctant that if the council took a decision to leave the NEP. So, just like to see what your comments are.
Barry. Thank you, Councillor Guglielmi, and I do appreciate that the position about having a seat at the table, and that is one of the issues that is very much part of our considerations. And I would like to agree and think that having a seat at the table does give us, clout and influence. But my experience at the last meeting would certainly make me think exactly the opposite, because you will probably be aware as a county councillor and reading the press that there's been a massive public reaction to some of the proposals that were made at that last meeting. And I can say that we did have some suggested on-street parking charges imposed in Walton, and we actively lobbied against that, and they were withdrawn. Other areas had no prior consultation about these proposals, and I'll give the example of Newland Street in Witham and some residential areas in Colchester. No pre-consultation, just seemingly out of the blue as revenue raises to try and address this deficit. Now, I would like to say here 100% that if we stayed in, we would not get charges put on our seafronts, but I could be outvoted 6-1 at the NEP meeting, and they could impose charges. The county council, as you're also aware, had it in their forward plan last year, and we had to lobby again at a very high level to have those proposals taken out of that plan. It is still feasible that the county council can impose charges on our seafront without any agreement from the NEP. It would have to come through that forum, but it's sort of out of our hands. So I take the point that staying in, we have more clout, and yes, I think I have made some alliances with other members. I've been actively working with what appear to be like-minded members to try and form and get perhaps a majority, 4-3, if things came to a vote. But my aspirations in that area, I think, were slightly dashed at the last meeting when I saw some of those councillors voting for charges in their own areas, having spoken against them during the course of the meeting. So it was quite bizarre in that respect. In respect of the chair of the partnership, Councillor Land is the chair. He has been involved in these discussions. He was at the scrutiny committee meeting on last Tuesday, and he unusually attended the client officer meeting last Thursday, which again is not normally something that a chair does. So all I can say is he is as informed as he can be about the situation. And whilst he is the chair, I would hope that he could see the implications for this council of the situation and support us accordingly. The final question is to what does the lead authority get out of its position? Again, that has come under intense scrutiny. We have asked, and I think it has been asked before historically, what are the odd charges, what are the back office charges, if you like. And it was announced at the last meeting that I think the charges, some of the the charge for the director of NEP was something like 95% was being charged to Colchester. We're using 95% of his time, or NEP was, and we queried that he couldn't possibly, we felt he couldn't possibly be spending that much time almost every minute of every day on NEP. So I think that was reduced to 75%, if I'm right. There has been some movement in the action plan, in the recovery plan, to reduce some of those charges. But my view, again, and it's just based on my experience over the last 3 meetings, is that the NEP is top heavy in terms of its management, and that's where a lot of the financial pressures are based, and that's where we should be looking to recover, our finances from. And I think they are moving in that direction. I still think that the overall strategy needs revisiting, because there's a simple assumption that if you put more civil enforcement officers on the street, you'll get more revenue. This does not take into account changing patterns of shopping, parking that have emerged since COVID. People are more than willing to go out of town. It's quite frankly, sometimes a pain and a hassle to go into town and find a parking space and pay quite extortionate charges. So people are voting with their feet or with their cars and moving out of town. So there is a cultural shift away from, parking behaviours that create revenues. And I don't think they have grasped that now. So I am constantly raising these issues with them. It's it is a struggle, I have to say, because there's not a great amount of realisation about some of these issues. But we will be in a position by the 21st to make an informed decision, and I take on your points about maintaining the seat at the town.
Just because we've got it in front of us and Mick referred to it, we've got the joint committee agreement for the North Essex that went to ONS as well, and their recommendations are there for everybody to see. Just wanted to note that Cabinet has read them and noted them. I think conversation needs to be clear. We want to stay in. We're not making the decision to go out today. There is a lack of information which is making that decision hard for us. And I hear you with the voice, but I'm sitting there. On one hand, we just talked about possibly having to shut a leisure centre, maybe in the future, and then we talk about we should stay in the NEP no matter what the cost. So I think it comes down to a question around the cost of that voice. I think what we're looking for today is to keep all options open. We're hoping, you say we're going to get that information, but it's not our experience that we're going to get more information on the 21st of March to help us make that decision. And Cabinet will be meeting on the 22nd to discuss it. And as to your question around what does Colchester go out of it, we've never had that answered. No. All they've ever said to us is that the recharges are reasonable. Now, when I first got elected, somebody used that word on us, and I was blind to it at that point. And it's somebody's interpretation of what reasonable is. So that's my thoughts and comments on it. Carly, you had some more to say.
Yeah, thank you. I think, and I read last night that the reason for the delayed financial information was because of the amount of time that is given from the finance team of Colchester to the NEP, which is very worrying, and that's been probably the thing all along. My point is, if you got two mirrors organization, one is making money and the other one was making money and is not any longer. You can't blame COVID. COVID's been gone 4 years ago, so let's move on. I think the world has moved on since then. It's badly run, basically. It's not making money because it's been badly run. They're prioritizing other functions over what they should be doing. For a lifetime, for years, we've been offering our own enforcement officers to dovetail enforcement on street, free of charge. We've always made that available to them, and they're never taken that up. So therefore, they're really not looking at good, cheap option for them to boost income. And really, that's something that, and maybe one recommendation, and this, maybe for your Essex leaders and chief exec meetings, was to amalgamate the two. It's long overdue. It's if one organization is making money and the other one isn't, when they've got exactly the same function, different geographical outlay, I will grant, so maybe they should fuse together, and that way we'll all be back, and an option is for Essex to take it back in house. And, it is an Essex County Council function after all. So I think there is quite a lot of lobbying to be done there through the leaders and chief exec to, I was talking to management this morning on the way here. They were not aware that this was, this proposal that we got in front of us had been aired out. And really, I was very concerned to hear that, So therefore, it's at a political level, I think Essex have not fully appreciated the consideration that tendering and maybe another partner are actually doing. So that I'm really concerned about that. But that's not obviously a reflection on this cabinet. It's what's, so maybe while the conversation should be had very urgently and to address this.
Councillor Barry.
Just back on the lack of knowledge by management, I will say that we have been fairly transparent or fairly clear about our position, to the point of obviously publishing this document, putting it in the public domain. It then been, the North Essex Parking Partnership being made aware of this, and them actually saying that they would have to possibly get a press release in order to defend their position. So if they're not communicating, are you talking about county council management? Yeah. Well, if they're not communicating with their management, that is a real serious worry. But the county council representative on net should be as aware of this as are all the other members, because they were all circulated at my request with a request with this intention. So it is worrying if they don't know.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. Right. All very nervous in the same boat, but the recommendation is as stands on page 180. Been proposed by Mick, seconded by me.
Chairman, if I may, and you're just saying that, and as part of your recommendation on B, you'll have taken account of the reference from scrutiny.
Yep.
Thank you.
All in agreement? Thank you very much. And before I sign off, just because I've had a couple of items from scrutiny, just like to get on record my thanks to the ONS scrutiny for the work they've done today. Thank you. Okay, I believe that's the last item, so I get to say those immortal words. I hereby close the